Welcome to the 19th season of the NItwits, a weekly roundtable discussion on the Nittany Lions and the only show of its kind in the state. Our NItwits panel features Neil Riddell of the Altoona Mirror and Mark Brennan of FightOnState.com. Between them, they've covered Penn State for 70 years. The NItwits are hosted by WTAJ Sports Director Alex Colley, and each week we welcome a former Nittany Lion as our special guest analyst. The NItwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona, just ask rental, buy what you want, rent what you need. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Selaney Orthodontics, Dr. Reed and Selaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor specializing in distributing a full line of food service products to restaurants, schools, and institutions throughout central Pennsylvania. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
Hello and welcome into the NItwits. I'm pinch hitting for Alex Colley tonight alongside Mark Brennan, Neil Riddell, and Mike Irwin. Now we're going to do things a little bit differently to start tonight. So we all saw the Iowa team at Beaver Stadium last week, right? I mean, they got steamrolled by Penn State. So who thought they were going to be the team that was going to hand Michigan their first loss of the year?
They burst out of a phone booth. And boy, I'll tell you, these Saturday night games, the juice that these teams are getting, including Penn State, from their crowd, and that's a heck of a win for Iowa, a character program after getting beaten so badly a week earlier, and to go in and play Michigan, a team that looked pretty unbeatable. Shocking.
When you saw Tommy Stevens take that jet sweep against Iowa and not only get the edge, but then run over three guys into the end zone, this was in the Penn State game. That's one of those plays where you think, man, this Iowa team just gave up. Give Ferentz all the credit in the world. And now all of a sudden, you know, this happens, and now Penn State's seriously in play. Not that it wasn't before, but now all of a sudden you are really, really, really in play for maybe getting to that Big Ten title game. So Iowa, you know what, that's a great program. This guy's been a good coach for a long time. They were good last year, kind of fell a little bit this year, but that's the beauty of the Big Ten. You never know who's going to reach up and bite you. Who would have thought Penn State was going to beat Ohio State? And that's why these next couple weeks, everybody's thinking this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You never know what's going to happen in this conference.
Well, you know, you also saw Pitt, one of our opponents earlier in the year, upsetting Clemson, the number 2 team in the country. So things are really shaking up this weekend, and we have something to look forward to because now, you know, Penn State's in the thick of the run for the championship in our division, and we could end up in a playoff depending on how these next couple weeks turn out.
Interesting. You mentioned Pitt. Who would have thought when we all walked out of Pitt Stadium that the loss to Pitt could be the one that maybe kept Penn State out of the college football playoff, but yet it might. Not that I'm not saying they shouldn't have played or anything like that, or that they didn't gain from that, but where they've come, where this program has come since the beginning of the year is such a credit to James Franklin and this coaching staff and Trace McSorley and these players. It's just really remarkable.
Nobody should even worry about the college football playoff right now, and I only say that because there are so many things that would have to happen. What I would say is how odd also is it, Neil and Mike and Jamie, that all of a sudden as a Penn State fan, you should have been rooting for Pitt in that game. And now all of a sudden, if form holds this next week or so, as a Penn State fan, you're going to have to be rooting like crazy for Ohio State against Michigan. And then Ohio State's going to have to root against Penn. I mean, it's crazy the way this is what we've missed the last however many years when Penn State was out of it. Now all of a sudden Penn State's back in this faster than anybody could have imagined.
Yes.
And how much fun is it? This is the fun we've been missing the last few
drama.
years.
Ohio
Who doesn't
State
love
was rooting
drama?
for Michigan last night.
That's exactly it. Who would have figured that all would have happened?
So it makes things kind of interesting. Let's kind of lay it out. So Penn State would need to win out. They need Ohio State to beat Michigan in Columbus, and that would basically give them a spot in a Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
You kind of mentioned it. You look back at August, 2 weeks into September, maybe even that Michigan game. Who would have even thought this could have been a possibility? Not even the college football playoff, but even the Penn State making it to the Big Ten title game possibly.
You know, it all started that second half of the Minnesota game. I mean, we were down against Minnesota, and how many times has McSorley brought them back now? I mean, we've been down by 10 points, I think 4 games out of these last 6 straight that we've won. And McSorley's done a super job. I mean, my hat's off to the staff at Penn State. I think Franklin's done a good job. I think Joe Moorhead's done a good job on the offense. The Limegrover, the offensive line coach, the defensive coaches, Pry and Spencer, and some of those guys for the defensive backs. It's amazing what they've done down there. I mean, it's really our hats off. It has to be off to them.
The resiliency that they've shown, the adjustments that they've made at halftime, they're out coaching people, the improvement top to bottom. But here's something that just blows me away. Okay, Saquon Barkley was stuffed for 1 yard or less 20 times yesterday. And yet they stuck with the run and set up the gadget play to beat Indiana. I mean, 20 times he was held to 1 yard or less, and 10 times he was dumped for a loss. And they still found a different way to win.
And here's the other thing. Listen, how many times now have we seen this team? I've talked about it. They've improved over the course of the year. They improved from the first half to the second half. They are almost always playing their best football at the end of the game. And that's because they're cycling in so many different people. Yeah, people are complaining. Arguari's out there. Why is he out there in the middle of the second quarter? Well, that's because so they can have their best guys at the end of the game out there getting after it and causing these turnovers. And both sides and even special teams are all playing super well at the end of the game.
And the other thing, I think it causes good chemistry on the team to get all those people involved.
Absolutely.
Like, I know we could complain about guys going in, like you want Barkley in there every play, but Sanders and some of the other people, what's the other? Robinson coming in there. I think those guys are both going to be, good running backs when they get their turn. It's almost take their turn. But how can you take Barkley or not give him the ball? I was questioning a little bit earlier about Barkley. I mean, not swinging him out of the backfield with some flare passes or that wheel route. I mean, he was getting killed in there because, Indiana was gearing up for the run, and they were really trying to stop the run. And they did an effective job with Barkley, I thought. I mean, he had 33 carries.
Yeah, it's a career high. And yet still they're finding way. And this is 6 in a row. A Big Ten conference, which they haven't done since '94.
Which is saying something, because that '94 team was
pretty
the
good.
'94 team. Yeah.
Yeah, and they've scored 40 points in a row now 3 times. They're putting a lot of things together, and you kind of get the idea that they're not necessarily playing their best.
Right. Well, we all sit here as armchair quarterbacks, and we all do it, and say, why do they keep beating their head against the wall, running Barkley? The fact of the matter is, once again, they played their best football offensively at the end of the game. They clearly had something in mind, and to their credit, they stuck to it. Now, the one thing I would say is, in a game like that, I'd be worried about him getting pumped up, But as you said, Mike, you have to give the coaching staff all the credit in the world because they played their cards right.
One thing
And it ended up, Barkley came back at the end of the game there with a couple touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
So they were right in what they were doing.
Right.
But I mean, everybody, my brother-in-law is calling me from Florida and criticizing what they're doing. I hear it from everybody. Why is Barkley stick him in there, and then all of a sudden he runs for a couple touchdowns?
They just knew you were going to be the guest nitwit.
I told him to watch it this week. I mean, yeah, that's right.
One thing I really liked about this team, Garrett Sickles said it after the game, they understand the cards they've been dealt. They now understand how to handle those cards. And I think that's one thing that you've really seen from week 1 until now, I think, more so than anything.
Well, it's interesting because they're winning. And they're putting a lot of foundation, I think, in beyond this year, and they're now going to potentially have possibly four more games this year, which we would not have envisioned, and the opportunities to really measure themselves going forward. It's the program is in really great shape right now.
Well,
I think.
they proved that they were able to bounce back from adversity. We saw that the last couple of years where they would get blown out in a game and come back. The question we had after they started experiencing success, how do you handle success? And you know what? They've done a good job of it.
Yeah.
You know what? People could get on Franklin all they want for the, Iowa, Indiana. We're going to hear it this week. Rutgers. But the kids are buying in and they're getting it done when they need to get it done.
We are trying to jump ahead a little bit too here, and I agree with Franklin. I mean, we got to go to Rutgers and play down there in that environment, and then we have Michigan State coming in, and Michigan State has, scored a lot of points against some people. I mean, they're capable of coming in and playing pretty well. So let's not get too far ahead and want to play these next couple games.
We'll get into that. We will get into that. We got to take a quick break, but when we get back, we're going to break down some more of the actual win at Indiana right after the commercials. Don't go away.
The Nitwits are brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona, just ask rental, buy what you want, rent what you need.
I'm Jordan Lucas from your Penn State Nittany Lions, and you are watching the Nitwits.
Welcome back into the Nitwits. So a win over Indiana, Mike, you said it a little bit earlier. I think you can characterize it as ugly, but what were some of the positives you guys took away from this one?
To me, the offensive line, that they've mixed and matched and dealt with all these injuries. Paris Palmer went out, McGovern went out. They really have some decisions to make now with the young kid. Mark, you might have a better feel for whether they're going to take the red shirt.
Fries.
They've done it before. Will Fries. But their offensive line, didn't block great for the run. Indiana was loaded up for it, but they have persevered and really symbolized the improvement of this team.
I thought once again when they needed to make plays, they made plays. We see Trace McSorley here was not his best game at times, but at other times he stepped up and was unbelievable, playing bumped up, banged up. Gesicki, the job that he did in there. Godwin, the job that he did. Defensively coming up with big plays when they needed to. This, as much as people want to talk about an ugly win, and we mentioned this during the break, much better than what Michigan dealt with. Much better than what Michigan dealt with. You take any win you can get in the Big Ten.
Well, Indiana has, a new defensive coordinator, Tim Allen, who's done a really good job with them. And they've always put a lot of points on the board. And if you look up at that big 6'6" quarterback, throwing the ball for 344 yards against Penn State. So Indiana played well, but they, like you said earlier, they shot themselves in the foot. They had 5 fumbles, I think, in the first half. And, without all those fumbles, we might be talking about a different score here, today. McSorley came back and did a great job, but, Indiana made an awful lot of mistakes in that game.
Well, speaking of turnovers, this was the first time Trace McSorley has really struggled with turnovers, yet still comes up with the 2 big touchdowns, comes away with the win. What does that say about the way he was able to bounce back at really his first personal signs of resilience?
Well, a couple things about him to me is, this guy is really gutsy and a winner. And his pocket presence, I think, is so impressive for somebody who's really not the guy. This kid from Indiana has an NFL arm and maybe an NFL future. McSorley is able to stand back there and sense the pressure and get rid of it at just the right time or run. He's been a fantastic leader.
Are you suggesting that there wasn't pocket presence there the last couple of years? Is that what you're trying to get at, Neil? No, that's Franklin said this when they signed him. He was a guy who was committed to Vanderbilt, ended up coming over with Franklin, and everybody wanted to know, what's this kid about? He's a winner. He was a winner in high school, won state titles, played for state titles, and you're seeing what Franklin was talking about. A lot of times that's a cliche. He's a winner. Well, guess what? This kid is a winner. Even when he struggles, he came back and made the plays he needed to make.
Well, even with the offensive line, with all the problems they've had, he's done pretty well hanging in there in the pocket or running out of the pocket. The first touchdown, he's doing that read option pretty well now. I think the first couple games he was kind of getting adjusted to it, but now he ran that nine-yard touchdown in the beginning of the game, and he's taking care of the ball real well. I mean, he threw an interception, which was unusual for him.
Yeah, I'd like to have a quick shout out to Brandon Bell too. I mean, this kid, when he is healthy, is really a great player. Seals the game with the strip sack, and Torrance Brown runs it in. Led the team in tackles, or I guess Allen had 10 and he had 9.5. But
He's a gamer.
yeah, when the defense is so much different with he and Kabinda.
All right, well, we got to take another quick break, but when we get back, it's going to be my new favorite segment, I think. It's the Neil Riddell Wet Blanket segment. We're going to talk about some of the wrong things coming up right after the break.
The Nitwits are brought to you by the Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Selaney Orthodontics. Dr. Reed and Selaney provide orthodontics for children and adults.
We now return to the Nitwits. A roundtable discussion of Penn State football.
Welcome back. Despite the win, there's still some things I'm sure we could take away, the good, the bad, the ugly. What did you guys think could be a little bit better out of that game yesterday?
I'm wondering about the special teams. It seems that there's become a little bit of a revolving returners, punt, and kickoff. And I'm wondering, I know Reed's playing a lot, but I'm just wondering if that's hurting the ability for one of those guys to really settle in, because we've seen what Sanders could do back there. He's busted 3 now 30-yard returns in the last 3 games. One was called back a 50-yarder a couple games ago, but I think we're lacking a little continuity there, and they had a big penalty on special teams that brought back a 40-yard return.
Yeah, after a game like that, so much went on, we didn't get a chance to ask a lot of these questions, but I didn't get Irvin Charles returning a kickoff. A 6'5" guy back there, I don't doubt that he's very athletic, but he's struggled a lot on special teams throughout the year. I'm fine with them putting Garrity back there. To me, he's the guy who's your hands guy. Joe Nastasi said it a few weeks ago, that when you're in a tough game and it's really imperative that you just catch that ball, you put him back there. The other thing that I would say is, listen, I get that Barkley is a threat to take it the distance every time, but I think 30+ in that sort of game is a little much when you have some really good backs behind him. I just think it's too much getting him beat up, physically beat up. I know we're late in the year, but I would like to see them get the backup backs a little bit more time.
Yeah, I would have to agree on Sanders on the kickoff returns, because he's done a good job so far, and I think you're trying to get more people in. Maybe he thought Charles could do something in there. But with the punt return, I think Reed is a better runner than Garrity. I mean,
Yeah.
So it depends on the circumstance. On a windy day, you probably want a Garrity in there. But in a normal day that's not blowing around too much, I think he gives you an opportunity to run one back. And he had a couple nice returns against Indiana.
But when you have 84 defensive snaps, and he's probably playing 60 of them, I mean, he played a lot of snaps, and I think that's part of, they want to try to keep him fresh. I was actually surprised that Tompkins, but again, I mean, they have so many people that I guess guys are playing well in practice.
It's kind of hard to criticize, because they do want to sub a lot of people in and get a lot of people experience, and it pays off at the end.
Right.
So I don't want to criticize too much, because he is getting a lot of people in, giving other people the opportunity, and some of that times that works out to your advantage.
I thought some of their pass defense was a little leaky also. There were guys that were pretty wide open, and fortunately for Penn State, Indiana missed on a couple.
All right, so we're going to take one more break, and then we're going to break down Rutgers and check out who's going to get that coveted Nitwit of the Week call this week. We'll be right back.
The Nitwits are brought to you by W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor specializing in distributing a full line of food service products to restaurants, schools, and institutions throughout central Pennsylvania. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday.
All right, welcome back. So you got to feel pretty good about, a winning streak, everything that's been going on, and Rutgers coming up next on the schedule. They've had a rough year. They've lost like 7 in a row, but is there any way this could be a trap game? Let's just throw that out there now and see.
Well, if anything, it would be that because Rutgers is charged up to play Penn State, but you look at a team that's lost to Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State. Is it a combined 185 to nothing? They sure look like they're mailing it in. So if anything is where to get their juices flowing, I think that would be it. Rutgers actually played fairly well against Indiana a couple weeks ago, but it was the same thing with Indiana. They had a bunch of turnovers that kept Rutgers in. So I think athletically, Rutgers just isn't where it needs to be to compete with this level of team.
I think this is an important opportunity for, you'll have a lot of Penn State fans down there. But Rutgers sees an old Eastern rival. The last time Penn State went there, it was a close game. Penn State really needs to establish itself and take some momentum into the Michigan State game, because Michigan State looked pretty good yesterday, and they have good athletes.
Against who?
Well, still.
No, I know.
Even though it's a night game and Rutgers has only won 2 games all year, I can't imagine going down there to Rutgers and losing. I think their Big Ten record's 0-7 or 0-8 or whatever it would be. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I don't think I want to look any further ahead than that, because next week it'll be Michigan State coming in, and they can put some points.
You just said you don't want to look any further ahead, and you look ahead.
Well, I'm slowing down. I want to go back.
Penn State has not put everything together on the road this year. Especially from the start, and particularly defensively. So I think that's a challenge for them to get off to a good start and really, sort of assert themselves.
I think I'm sensing where someone's going
with
their pick. Are we getting to them now, or?
We can. I think we should just quote one, very famous current college football coach when we say, not Michigan State. What did he say last night? Rutgers, 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 first and foremost. So, Mark, I know.
So he's all in with the picks.
Yeah, I kind of feel like he's kind of focused on this one. But so Mark Brennan is our Nitwit of the week this week,
lucky.
which means.
So drum roll.
I got lucky. No, listen. I think Penn State. The one concern that you have to have is with that offensive line. Where are they going to be? Are they going to take Fries out of a red shirt? We'll know some of these things probably a little bit later in the week. So I don't look for a gigantic explosion, but I'm going to go Penn State 34, Rutgers 10. Maybe Rutgers playing with a little motion, 24-point game.
Neil?
All righty. I'm looking for something a little bit more decisive. I'm going to say Penn State 41, Rutgers 7.
Mike, how about you?
I'm going to go 30-0, 30-0. I'll go with Penn State over Rutgers. I actually was going to go 35-10, but I didn't want to take any air out of Mark's balloon.
See,
there.
God forbid.
I swear to God, I'll show you my notes in the car.
I'm going to have to be the one that squeezes this week, because I came into this with a 38-10 decision on my plate, and I've gotten squeezed a lot this year, guys. And
that's why you keep coming back.
I know that, but yet, hey, we're doing what we can. All right, that just about wraps it up for us. Hopefully, coming back again next week after.
You're going to make a pick?
38-10.
38-10.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm taking 38-10. I'm squeezing you.
All right.
I'm coming. I'm a gamer this week. Rutgers, Rutgers, Rutgers.
Good luck, Jamie, squeezing him.
Yeah. All right, that about does it for us. We're going to wrap things up, but we'll see you back here same time, same place next week after the Rutgers game. Have a great night.
The Nitwits have been brought to you by Irwin Financial, Raymond James, an independent firm and a firm foundation for your financial future. By Coldwell Banker, no one will work harder to sell your home. By Courtesy Motor Sales of Altoona, where courtesy means a great deal. By Fiore True Value on 6th Avenue, Altoona, just ask rental, buy what you want, rent what you need. By The Allegro, where fine cuisine is a way of life. By Health South, your rehab choice. Health South Altoona, ask for us by name. By Monarch Cleaners, for all your dry cleaning, uniform, and mat rentals. By Reed and Selaney Orthodontics, Dr. Reed and Selaney provide orthodontics for children and adults. By W.S. Lee & Sons, your local food distributor specializing in distributing a full line of food service products to restaurants, schools, and institutions throughout central Pennsylvania. By EasyToUse.com, your Yellow Pages connection in print and online. By FightOnState.com, as close as you get to Penn State football without putting on a helmet. And by the Altoona Mirror, featuring Penn State Game Day every Friday and Penn State Extra every Sunday. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.